Hello, everyone. This is Dr. B here from Steps to the Future, coming to you at this week's College and Career Conversations. I am so thrilled to be able to bring today's guest speaker to you. So I want to make sure that you are ready. If you have any young folks in your home that are interested in esports, this is the conversation that they need to hear. And as a parent, this is the conversation that you want to be a part of. So make sure that you go and get your drink, get your tea, your coffee, your soft drink, whatever it is, and come back and meet us. And hey, guys, make sure you share this out with people because I think it's really one of those conversations that is going to intrigue you. And I hope that you get as much out of it as I did with my initial conversation with our guests. So we'll be back in a few seconds. So we are back. And before I bring our guest on the screen, I want to read his bio for you. So sit back and listen, folks. So Caleb Smith grew up in Durham, North Carolina. After graduating high school, he headed to Germany and played soccer there for a few years. Upon his return, he embarked on a mission to make the Triangle the esports capital of North America. With an ambitious goal, he opened an esports gaming center in Cary, North Carolina, under the franchise Contender Esports, where they develop gamers from a young age, making them not only great esports players, but also great people. Caleb is on a mission to bring esports events to the Triangle area, making it the hub for esports by focusing on youth recreation all the way to the pro level and bringing events on all levels from local to international. So, folks, join me in welcoming Caleb Smith to the screen. Caleb, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I know people are going to be so intrigued with what you're doing and with your story. I'm thankful to my friend Candy Sugarman, who happened to meet you at a networking event and connected us on LinkedIn. Yay, LinkedIn. I tell people LinkedIn is the best networking platform there is. So, Caleb, tell us a little bit about you. So, when you graduated from high school, you went to play soccer. So, tell us a little bit about that. How did that come about?
That came about, since my sophomore year, around 15, 16 years old. Playing soccer overseas in Europe was a very ambitious goal. I had something that I really wanted to do. And I had got connected with someone in the States who had connected me with someone over in Germany. And it went over there and essentially just went there, tried out with multiple teams, things like that. And it was, quite different, obviously, being in a country. I'd been to Europe, like England and Portugal before, but had never been in a foreign country to specifically live there. It was always, England, I was there for 2 days, but Portugal, I was there for a few weeks, but, staying in a hotel. I was with other Americans. And then, in Germany, I didn't know anybody else. It was pretty much just like thrown out there and, had to get used to the whole culture. Most of the things, you needed were pretty easy to find. They had the grocery stores and all that. Thankfully, my roommate was Australian and spoke English extremely well, obviously, because that's their language they speak. And so that was a huge help while being over there. And it was all getting accustomed to the language, which since English does have come from a Germanic root, that made it so much easier. The weather was a huge shocker, cold and raining, as opposed to here in North Carolina, we have very sunny and beautiful days. And just the overall level of play that was there. I mean, it was to a completely different level. When the first week I was there, I went and watched a game, players same age as me. And about 10 minutes into watching, I'm just like, these guys are good. They're phenomenal. I don't want to play against these guys. And that really opened up because, I was one, best players in the state. arguably best player one of the best players in the country. And then we get over, got recruited by, many universities. Even I did zero effort to get recruited either. Those just, some pretty much happened, and they found me. It's usually you have to go and find the universities, but I was good enough where they found me. And then going over there, it was a completely different level of play. And then all the other things added on to it. I did get adjusted to it, didn't end up learning the language, wouldn't say super enjoyed, like loved living at the place, got used to living there. I really loved and enjoyed playing soccer there.
Right.
Where I lived in Bonn, Germany, the people were very nice and friendly. So now in other areas of Germany, I heard that they aren't so nice, but in that area they were. So thankfully, I mean, I traveled to Frankfurt. I heard the people weren't very nice. About 5 minutes into there, walking to my Airbnb, I saw somebody chasing down someone else in a car. So I was like, okay, yeah, maybe I'll do my best to avoid, the people here. And it was just the overall, because a lot of people, I mean, there's the movies and stuff like, oh, being a pro athlete's fun. You get to travel and do all this stuff. And no, and I met another guy, he played pro basketball for over 10 years in Europe. He was like, you get to travel around a lot. I'm like, nah. He's like, yep. He said, everybody thinks, oh, you just get to go all these places. Like, no. I mean, it's a, full-time job, what a lot of people don't understand. And I know a lot of people, they'll play Division I sports and leave and go play Division II. And they say, oh yeah, when I played Division II, it was fun. They say the higher up you get something, the less you enjoy it. Now, I personally loved it, and really enjoyed playing there. The whole getting to experience and see, a new culture, and just having really that experience has really set me up and helped me, a lot in life. And it has made me, it opened me up to wanting to self-educate and learn more, about the world, about people and different societies.
Okay, thank you for that. So what position did you play?
I was a goalkeeper. Yeah, not
Oh,
very tall. So that was another thing that didn't help me out too much over there.
okay. So we have one of my usual viewers, my regular viewers, with us this evening, Deborah Franklin. So she's saying hello. So Debbie, thank you so much for joining in, and make sure you share this out with people. And if you have any questions for Caleb as we go along, feel free to ask them. So Caleb, so you did several years over in Germany playing soccer. So when you came home, how did you move to this next step?
Well, this was sort of in the works during the last half of the season, that I was playing there. And what happened was on an app called Shaper, which is the Tinder for entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Because one of my friends, he just said to me, hey, I wish there was like some app or something where you could, network and meet other people, which obviously there's LinkedIn, but I was like, well, that's be something like that. And so I looked it up, found that, and I actually met someone, and then he was trying to do things within the esports industry, and we had talked, and I knew what esports was. I saw it on TV a couple years ago. I mean, it was a small stadium. There was probably like 50 people in attendance.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that it was a thing, and obviously I knew that the best at anything makes money and pretty decent money at doing it. But when I heard about Gary Vee, he was saying that he was getting a Twitch channel. So I was like, I heard about Twitch. I was like, okay, let me check this out. And then I go and check it out. And then Ninja was one of the first people I came across. He would always have like 50, 60,000 viewers watching him play. I come to hear, about the millions that he's making off of Twitch streaming, and then find out more about the players and, $1 million contracts. They're filling up professional stadiums, 10, 20,000 people in attendance, all the things there is. I'm like, this is unbelievable. And in the US, it's just in its infancy. And even over in Asia, where it's huge and, their main thing, I still don't think it's as big as it can be. And especially when you look at Asia's, 10, 20 years ahead of us, when it comes to esports, and we're lagging behind. And what I mention to people all the time is, well, one, they don't have to drive, so which makes it easier to come to places like these. But there are gaming centers like these everywhere. So I mean, we're the only one in Cary. There would be 18 in Cary, and that might be a little low number. I mean, there are esports gaming centers like there are Starbucks
Okay.
over in or even coffee shops. You could argue. I mean, over in Asia. So they are just flat out everywhere. That's where the people go. That's where they hang out. That's usually the beginnings for a lot of these players, and so we really wanted to open one of these up, offer the social aspect, people looking for tournaments to compete in, they're looking to play with others. It's great for birthday parties as well. And then we have the idea of adding another component. So within sports, it was easy. I started, playing the youth, the rec, 5 years old, playing, Woodcroft, soccer, this local recreation league, and then it led up to playing for Triangle United, which was more of a competitive scene, and continued to climb, the ladder. And eventually, was playing at the highest level, there was within North Carolina. And then, playing at that, then, people usually go to college. Very few, go straight to the pros here in the US. And over in Europe, being overseas, I saw how well and structured this system was, from taking players from a young age and making them into professional players. And I said, well, first of all, we need this in soccer here in the States. But I was like, we need this in esports. And there's no precedent. There's a couple people trying out in the area, which is also what makes it pretty challenging. We are essentially copying what's done in youth sports and taking that into esports. And I use a reference, since a lot of people understand sports. I say, okay, we take a basketball gym, a community center. We'll usually go in there, you pay just to go in and use the place. And then you may meet some guys. Well, hey guys, you want to, get some games in, and then y'all will play pickup. Things that happens at our facility. There will be trainings and workshops going on, and it could be a specific skill such as dribbling or shooting, passing, which we essentially have the same thing, but in all the various different games, such Fortnite, Minecraft, League of Legends, Overwatch. And then they hold camps for different sports. We hold camps as well, for video gaming. And within our camps, because a lot of people are concerned, they're like, are they just playing games for 7 hours a day? Which is no. The great benefit to being in Waverly is the courtyard area that we have. So it's safe, and you can take the kids out there. Great for physical activity, running around, and that's what we encourage, because you do have to find, part of gaming is the education part of it as well. You have to be able to find the balance between playing games and the physical activity. Even if you're searching to be a pro, many people don't know professional gamers are just like professional athletes. They have on their teams, one team just hired a chief wellness advocate, because they have to eat right, they have to sleep right, they have to work out, because it's shown that it's better for your brain, improves your reaction time. All that helps you become a better gamer. And we have to be honest as well. Most people aren't becoming a professional gamer, just like most people do not become professional athletes. And the people that do become professional athletes, all people look at is how much money LeBron James makes or Tiger Woods makes, Roger Federer. No one really looks and say, okay, when you take it down and put it at the average, you want to say, okay, what do you mean by be a pro? And then from the what do you mean? Okay, I mean, if you mean Major League Baseball, well, minimum salary is $500,000. So you're going to be doing, pretty well. You still need something to do after you're done with the sport. And even still, okay, the reality is, I mean, how many people do you really have in, Major League Baseball? A few hundred. So out of all minor league or some other type of league is mostly the reality, and that's what we encourage them as well. And the great thing about what we do here is that in the future we plan on offering more courses that aren't just video game specific, but they're also coding, IT, PC building, all those, because out of all the jobs, these skills are transferable, and you can use them. So for instance, video editing is something that a lot of gamers learn how to do for Twitch and YouTube. Well, they have to be able to do the same thing in and lots of other jobs. They said, we need you to edit these videos. Well, editing the video is editing a video, but there are a lot of career paths that can come throughout within being, in esports and in gaming, and that helps spark the excitement uh, for what they're doing. So that's pretty much, what all we do, what the goal is, what the mission is, and most challenging part is getting people to really understand and relate. And the comparing using the sports model, that's the best way to take it and translate it into language most people understand.
I love everything you just said. I became, when I talk with families about esports, or we're talking, just in general, having conversations, I don't think most people realize the magnitude of esports maybe in other countries. And I love the way you're taking that model of youth recreation and other types of organizations and putting that into esports. Um, because I know when my kids were growing up and were like playing earlier video games, I'm like, oh my god, your brain's gonna go to mush because you're playing video games all day. You're never gonna get a job playing video games. There are no scholarships for video games. And now we have this rise of esports. And I had the opportunity to visit Columbia College in Missouri, which has an esports program, and they also offer scholarships. And on the tour, we went into the building for the esports students. The equipment that was in there, the intensity, the dedication, the drive. Now, I don't play video games, so for me, I'm watching them, really had no idea what they were trying to do, but you could see the amount of, as I said, dedication that they were putting into their craft, because that's really what it is. It's a craft. And I loved how you talked about the work that you're doing with students or with young people is also providing them with some transferable skills for other occupations. And that is fantastic. So can you tell people a little bit? So you were talking about, Fortnite and the other gaming stuff. So what happens when people, how does this work? Because for people who may not be as familiar with esports, how does it work? Like what is the model for esports when students are playing against other people? Like, how does that come about?
Are you talking in terms of competitions for those things?
Yes.
Well, so competitions happen through leagues and tournaments. And the thing about esports, each game is different. And I like to relate it a lot to how martial arts is, whether it be boxing, kickboxing, one of those type of activities. It's pretty much within boxing, you just fight people and go as many different people as you can go to. And like you see all these pros or records like 24-0, and like they're fighting, this big time champ and get wiped out, second round. Well, at first it's just a bunch of the first 15 fights were easy and just some rollover wins, things like that. I mean, esports is essentially the same way. Any team can really join in on any tournament, and the winnings all helps your record until you get to the top where the pros is there isn't an actual set system league of how it works. For instance, most of the games they have a league, so which is the top league, in the country. They may have a second one as well, and most of the games have a youth. Then after that, it's the whole, all right, you just join these tournaments, whatever, you're out there. And then pretty much of what we do, that's when everybody's trying to figure out, they're like, how do I, get to that level? Because you're there. And so we teach them. Part of it is being a great player, and the other part is building your brand. There are multiple different leagues, and there are high school leagues, there are college leagues, there's different rec leagues. All of these leagues, the way gaming works, the companies that own the games want people playing in their events that they hold. So they really restrict other companies or organizations from holding events. And the really only legal way to do it is to host events, for pretty much recreation, casual type gamers, that aren't super serious about it. And so because of that, all that stuff, it's it's just, I mean, people would say it's not like super serious. All of it's just like a rec casuals, like going and playing pickup almost type of thing. The esports hasn't been defined yet of,
Okay.
a standard from, within rec, there's a bunch of different rec leagues, none of them matter. But as
Right.
far as actual club competitive, if it really just isn't anything there. And even still, like one game, Overwatch called the Open Division, which is a league anyone can join in. But he was saying half the teams would just drop out,
Okay.
throughout the season of it. It's has lots of growing pains and will continue to have for the next 5 to 10 years until it really gets finalized. The companies, obviously, they have a pro scene, so it's not like the NFL, NHL, NBA,
Mhm.
whatever. They don't have the league. The NFL's goal is to make money. I
Right.
mean, and they most like through TV rights and sponsorships, they make money. Well, in esports, so the game is called skins or in-game purchases, like costumes for your character, unlocking new characters, things like that. That's how the money is made. And the whole point of the pro scene is to promote that. So people watch it, they become more engaged. So two games that I started playing because I actually watched them and I attended, they call them LAN events, which are in-person tournaments. And, at these, hockey, basketball stadiums. And so I'm talking about like Wells Fargo Center up in Philly, 10,000 people in attendance. And so that's how I got into these games. And that's what they want. I actively watch these leagues and I play the games and I'll occasionally spend money within the games, on in-game purchases. Their money's made from in-game purchases. And because of that, all they need is a pro scene. They don't need a, rec and a whole path to pro and all that type of stuff. Because you see the NFL, the money's made from the league.
Mhm.
It is a marketing tactic for these gaming companies. Epic Games in 2019 hosted a $100 million prize pool for a World Cup. That lost probably like $60 million.
Ooh.
Just the event itself. Like they did make some money, from like ticket sales and concession things like that. The goal was, but when they're doing like $300 million, a month in sales from, they call them skins, which are costumes for
Mhm.
your character, and parents say their kids are always like, I need this new skin, I need this new skin. And so that's where the money's made. And by hosting events like that, that's how they keep people engaged and keep them wanting to play the game and hook and things like that. So that's really how esports, for the people that know, that's how esports is. So the way competitions are, I mean, it is essentially, if you speak to anyone that does a martial art and ask them about it, they're like, yeah, I mean, they said they'll go through the entire training camp and the fight will get canceled the day
Mhm.
before. They'll show up the next day for the fight. The person won't be there. They'll show up for weigh-in the day before. The person will be there next day, not show up. I mean, it's just all confused. I mean, most fighters I know, half the tournaments and events they went to,
Mhm.
no one was there. And then until pretty much recently, due to COVID, it was only serious people that, were now attending events. They'd say, 6 weeks training hard, all ready for the fight. Then all of a sudden, the person drops out last minute. And so esports is essentially the same way. And like within boxing, there's those pro leagues at the top. But UFC is what most, like, I'm not gonna say the boxing ones, but MMA, UFC is something people have heard of. Well,
Right.
the UFC, you pretty much have to get offered to be in it. Well, how do you get offered? Well, you pretty much do get in to any other leagues or any other fights. Just build up your record, build up your brand, and hope that Dana White offers you a contract to come fight in the UFC. And even still, then it takes a super long time to build up to be making, big time money from it. So that's essentially esports. If you want to know esports, look at how MMA is. I mean, there are guys that will show up, they're the main event of the evening and win it. And the entire, money made from that is, 30, $40,000, which when you factor in the training and travel, the team and coaches they pay, they're losing money on it. Most of them have another job that's, supporting that activity, and they do it, for the love of it. It's not until you get to the top, like Khabib Nurmagomedov or Conor McGregor, that you're actually, banking in, 6, 7 figures, a fight, or 8, 9 figures for some of these guys now.
Yeah, that's, I have just learned so much about esports. And for people that are out there listening, either live or seeing this on the replay, please, if you have any questions or comments for Caleb, please make sure you throw them in the comment section. Throw some emojis up there, because he's given us some great information. So I'd love to see some more, heart emojis, some more, that you like what he's saying. One of our regular listeners, Michelle Burden, commented that the information that you're giving is great to know, because again, this isn't a conversation that we have regularly, I think, in our homes, because we're not the people that are doing all of this. So Caleb, tell us a little bit about your business. Tell us about your place. We can see it there in the background.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is one of our party rooms / training rooms, and our teams come and play in this room, and also our with for rentals as well, just like any other sports facility. Any teams will come and rent out the room because it's a more quiet place. They like to, be in person with their teammates when they play, so they'll come and use it. And then also, any to be semi-professional, professional teams, colleges, or even like youth teams as well that could come and use a place. We're located in Waverly Place, Cary, by the Center Bistro, which is the opposite side of the Whole Foods. And it's a phenomenal area to be at. Essentially, within our facility, we have 50 stations total. It's a mix, mostly PCs, but we also have Xboxes, PlayStations, and Nintendo Switches. Like I mentioned, our tournaments happen here, which during COVID, not so many, but due to the large size and the capacity that we hold within our facility, we were able to host the first tournament in North Carolina for a game called Super Smash Bros. Ultimate in over a year, which we were very proud about. And now, it's a bi-weekly event that next week, or technically this week on Thursday, will turn to a weekly event. And so it's great because the community is absolutely fantastic. It's great that we're able to hold this event. We have recently been talking with other tournament organizers that are looking to come and host LAN events at the facility. And overall, it's just a great place to come and hang out and, meet other people. I mean, I've gone over mostly what we do here regarding the open play, workshops, teams, camps, parties. And it's mostly something that you really have to come and see for yourself. I get a lot of comments, you see in the background, people talk about how nice it looks. Even still, when people see that, they show up to the place and they're like, this is not what I was expecting. This is phenomenal. This looks amazing. I love it. And, it's great for all the people that love and have a passion for gaming. And one thing that we're even looking to do, there are so many kids out there that, have no interest in playing sports or aren't able to play sports. For instance, our Minecraft instructor, he has only one leg, and then obviously he can't play sports, but he is able to play video games, and he was pretty good at them. And he's made lots of friends, and he can show us what he can do, through different games that he plays. And that's the main thing, because there are people that are in wheelchairs, there are people with other disabilities, and there are just people who have no interest in playing sports. Because interesting statistic, 82% of students that participated on a high school esports team never participated in an extracurricular activity. And that means there are plenty of people out there that aren't involved in anything that want to be a part of a team, want to be a part of a community. And our goal is really to push and offer that for them. And then in addition to them giving them something to do, the study also found that it increased class attendance by 10% and the overall GPA by 1.7, which is a significant amount.
Mm.
So for the ones looking to get a college scholarship, that will really help with then getting into the school and much higher chance of being recruited.
Oh, that is fantastic. So Michelle has a comment here. She's saying, we're always telling our kids to stop playing games, but now you can make a living from it. So again, it's really reframing how we think about gaming. I know, and sometimes talking with students who are interested in video game design and what have you, looking at all the possibilities that are out there. And as Deborah said, this whole thing is mind blowing because if we were talking about this, 15 or 20 years ago, it wouldn't have been something that was as viable as this, where, you have this business going and you're able to really capture so many different interests. I love how you're able to, like you said, you do workshops, you do birthday parties, you teach students. So you hit on one of the things that caught my ear that's of interest to me in my business. And that's when you talked about esports and scholarships and going to college for that. So I remember when in our initial conversation, when we first met, you talked about how with COVID, the numbers went down at your place because people couldn't come in. So you did some pivoting there where you started training students towards working towards these scholarships. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. Well, the typical gaming center model is a come in, pay to play type. Now, during COVID, when that hit and was around for a while, most people had invested in their own systems, and a lot of people didn't want to come out. And so, because of that, we realized that the tournaments and open play wasn't going to be a sustainable model. At that time, even still, not so much, because the thing is, you can still play at home. And when people come out, it's usually with a group of their friends. They just want a night out or something like that. And so, and especially in an area like Cary, that's a high income area. When people have the money to front that. I know especially what gaming centers do well is usually in areas that aren't high income areas or areas where there's very little things to actually do recreational wise. I mean, when you can play video games at home, why would you come here when you can go rock climbing or go karting, axe throwing? So many options that there are out there, and so we really had to discover and said, okay, we need to give people a reason to come out. And the reasons to come out were mostly, the teams, workshops, and camps, which we hadn't yet done, but we're planning on doing. And so from looking at that, we were like, okay, well, since these, are the reasons people come out, let's build, the whole business model around that. And then all of a sudden, that just started to explode because there's the thing about playing video games. Here's what parents don't like. Kids lock themselves in a room, it's antisocial. It can be very toxic. They don't know what they're saying to people and how they're acting, things like that. And so what we say, and which a lot of parents like to do, is they said they don't get to play at home. They only get to play at our place. And by doing that, it helps them limit their video game time. And then they don't get this, the kids are like, can I go play games? Like, no. And I said, when do I get to play? Oh, maybe sometime later. But now the kids know they have a set day that
Yeah.
they, get to come and play games. And then if we hear them saying something they're not supposed to be saying, we're not going to allow that. And so that puts them in that controlled environment, the other kids around, that they're able to socialize. So we pretty much counter, all the things that parents don't like about gaming. And we also talk about the character and life skills building. So first we were on integrity, then we went to sportsmanship. Now we're on, then we went to teamwork. Now we're on patience and talk about why these are very important. Because the thing is, I mean, yeah, you can make these kids phenomenal esports players, like we mentioned. Most aren't going pro, and even still, we want to make them great people. I remember I wanted to try out golf. I went to a golf camp, did not like it, did not think it was going to be as hard as it was. I remember very little from the camp that actually happened, but the thing I remember the most that stuck with me was when one of the instructors was talking to us and saying, how golf works, when you're on a team, that he actually ended up using a ball that wasn't his, it were part of his teams. And he didn't realize that until, close to the whole event itself being over. And that led in a disqualification. Now, no one else knew, and no one else was going to know. And he said, and he did not have to tell anybody. He said, but that was the right thing to do. And, it sucked for him. He and his team, got disqualified from the tournament. But he said it was the right thing to do, and that's what had to be done. And that is what stuck to me and what I've remembered throughout the years, because I'm trying to remember how long ago I was in elementary school then when I went to the camp. And it's those type of things that we want the kids taken away, because like you see, I mean, besides going to like Drive Shack, I've never, or playing putt putt, I've had no interest in ever going golfing or doing anything, regarding hitting golf of. But that, life lesson, that life skill is what stuck with me throughout all these years. And that's what our goal and our aim is, whether they switch games or they decide they want to do something different, that we have taught them, these life skills and working together with others and controlling the raging and toxicity that, comes within video games. And it's not even the fact that it's video games either. I actually did a blog post on this. The main thing is in sports, you have the same type, of passion. In sports, players, they yell, they scream, they get upset. They're like, oh, it's the adrenaline, it's the passion, things like that. And people don't realize, they say, oh, well, they're just sitting down playing. I'm like, these games, get intense. And it's not the shooting that makes people violent, it's the overall competitiveness. And they talk about, I mean, one thing I'd use to compare it in baseball. Player strikes out, comes over, throws their bat, slams down their helmet, and they say, oh, it's the adrenaline and all that came, is upset about striking out. A gamer gets upset, throws down his controller. Both instances are wrong. And in no way am I like trying to justify one or the other, but there is no way that you can say, oh, throwing the helmet and bat was all adrenaline and passion for the game, and that throwing the controller was complete rage in the game, making them violent. And so I do agree that it's an issue and something that needs to be fixed. But there's this double standard, that comes within video games, simply due to the fact that people don't understand. And then there's this whole thing that talks about like the school shootings or whatever. I'm like, okay, we hear about maybe one a month. I'm like, so out of the hundreds of thousands of people that play video games, 12 go out a year and shoot up a school. And then, but it's, the video games itself that's causing, people to do that. I'm like, so you have like a 1 in 18 million people, that go and do something like this. I'm like, that's, so you're gonna ban everyone from completely playing video games, and oftentimes too, there's completely other side to it as well that comes up. But that's more of an overall take on how we work with kids and take them and develop them. And what I didn't mention is we train adults as well. So it's usually a game like right now, League of Legends and Apex Legends are the two that the 18 plus crowd like to come to. League of Legends is 100% 18 plus, but they come mostly to get trained and learn and get better at the game. That's more of like the adult rec type leagues. And then, but it is, about 90% through what we work with are the kids, and most likely will always be like that.
I love that you're working on helping them build character and teaching them and making integrity and making patience a part of it, because that sometimes is something that gets lost in the shuffle with any kind of sport. But with the fact that you're being intentional about it, I think it would put parents who bring their young folks to your facility, I think it would put their minds at ease, knowing that it's not just there to hone their competitive nature, but it's also helping them to learn how to temper that competitive nature in a way that will hopefully help them become better players and better people. So this was, I mean, this is a whole lesson here for me. So I'm so thankful that you're able to give us this information. And I know, like we said, we were talking about some of the schools that give scholarships. I was just doing a little bit of Googling early, not a whole lot. And people, you can all do this. You can all go online and just search for esports scholarships. But I was just looking through, like, you'll see the ticker tape down at the bottom. These are just a small sampling of schools that have esports programs along with esports scholarships. And one of the things that I did find out in my research, and again, this goes right to what Caleb was saying, was that the companies that foot the bill for some of these scholarships or for some of these tournaments, being the big sponsors. So it's knowing what schools offer these, and if that's something your student is interested in, and looking into the other requirements to becoming a student there. Are you meeting the academic requirements? Is the school a financial fit for you with or without the scholarship? So again, it's just paying attention. You'll see some names like UC Berkeley in California, UC Irvine. As I said, I have Columbia College in Missouri on there, and I had the opportunity to visit their facility and was completely blown away by what I saw, because again, I'm old school. My kids, they were playing the earlier video games. So now to see that there's this industry and that it's something that you're really working on to bring to this area, and also to really pump it up in the United States and North America. So I definitely am looking forward to learning more about this, and I'm hoping, once things get a little bit better with COVID for me, because I know everything's opening up. I have a couple of young friends who I know love video games, so I'd love to be able to bring them to your facility and have them just like hang out and play some of the games and just see what it's all about. So you might be seeing me down there in Cary, Caleb. You might
Right,
be
that would be
seeing.
great.
Yeah, that'll be. I'm like excited now, because I just love everything that you were saying about this, because it's so important for our young folks to have interests outside of the academic world. And as you said, not everybody's an athlete. Not everybody's an athlete. And if this is something that students are interested in, old and young students, or young and older, um, why not have it in a facility that is also working on character building? I think that's one of the nice things about this. So in our earlier conversation, or in some of the information you sent me, one of the books that you said that you would recommend to people is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So tell me why that would be a book you would recommend to people.
Well, that's a great book. My dad had me read that when I was 7 years old.
Wow.
And there's the overall basis of Rich Dad, Poor Dad and what they talk about, and, becoming financially independent, because, people are like, oh, money isn't important. So I'm like, well, to a certain extent, it is. And understanding, it's really about understanding finances. And, Robert Kiyosaki, obviously, he really pushes entrepreneurship a lot. And maybe against having a job. And not necessarily that's the path you have to follow.
Mm-hmm.
He is speaking from, his view and his personal experience. But what I really took away from it, and I went the entrepreneurial path. But what most people need to take away is to truly learn and about how the system works, because a lot of people don't know about taxes or
Mm.
expenses and things like that, and they don't realize, oh, I get, it's like they start working a job, oh yeah, I'm gonna be getting $300 a paycheck, and all of a sudden they see 269, and it's like, wait, well, what happened? I was supposed to get X amount of money, and and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, you got gas and a car bill and all these other expenses, and it really amazes me how many people truly don't understand, basic things about finances, of what an asset is, and what the banks and financial advisors consider an asset from certain terms. Because when you go to a bank or financial advisor, they consider an asset at anything you have, that goes
Mhm.
up in value. Where as opposed, Robert Kiyosaki says, well, an asset's something that, generates you income. And so you have to understand, well, the bank, obviously, they want you to own a home so they can give you, like a mortgage, and like they're making money, things like that. And now it's not saying absolutely not to have a house, but then, Robert Kiyosaki pushes the assets, that make you money, and that are cash flowing every single month, and he is not recommending that for everybody. He says straight up, flat out, if you're not willing to put in the time and dedication, because it is a lot to truly learn and study and master craft. For instance, he loves real estate. He talks about how hard it is, how much studying goes into it, how all the losses that he took within it, and how long it took him to truly learn and build that up. And he said, and for a lot of people, well, for most people, they don't want to do it. He said, for most people, the best option is to, go to a financial advisor, get a 401k, Roth IRA, and, build the assets up, or through the long-term way, just be work your job. Because not everybody's meant to be an entrepreneur or like a 2, 3, 4 person at a company. And people have to really realize, where they're currently at. And so what I really like, though, like I mentioned, financial education and getting to understand the basics, understanding liabilities. And, they talk about, he said, house being an asset. Well, he said, okay, but well, if you have a mortgage and homeowners insurance, and, you have to take care of the lawn, or something breaks and you have to fix it, we're saying, well, that's money you're losing every single month. So it's more so about understanding finances and how money works, and taxes, and all those things. And then if you're looking to be an entrepreneur, great, awesome. But, if not, then it's still great to learn. Because my thing is, you can always learn something. And like what guy we talked about, it was actually early today, when somebody says, oh, it was nice meeting you. I always say, or if it was nice meeting, I'll say it's nice meeting you. But I'll say, I don't want to lie about like, oh, it was great meeting you. I say, well, that is true. I said, every single person I've met is great. No matter how great or awful a person they were. I said, because it's usually the wrong people that teach you the right lessons. And so you can always learn something, from anybody out there, no matter what they say. I mean, I've had people, they've given, told me 30 things, and 29 of those things is absolutely wrong, awful, disagree with, never want to listen to their information again. And then one thing that they said, I was like, oh, that's a pretty good idea. I should start doing that,
Right.
So, and that's what, I really encourage. And with a lot of books, obviously there are a lot of great books out there. For me personally, that was, the foundation of, my financial education.
I'm so glad you mentioned that book. I had a guest on about 6 or 7 weeks ago, Kevin Manawanu, and he talked about the lack of financial literacy in schools, and we know that's a big issue. And it's like you two are like are connected at the soul when you're talking about the importance of financial literacy and knowing all the different terms, knowing what that really means. So I know a lot of people are out there looking for graduation books to give to students. People are graduating from high schools in the coming months, and they're graduating from colleges now. This might be a great graduation gift to those young people to help them get started on their way. This book has been around for a while, but the lessons in it never go away. So I am thrilled that you brought up that book. So so let's get back to you being an entrepreneur. So walk us through exactly what you did to set up your business. How did you become a franchise owner of Contender Esports in Cary, North Carolina?
Well, it was a new franchise, and so an easy part is they, just want to they pretty much have to sell to people. And well, CEO, he really did like me too, because I did have a great understanding and background, within esports. And, already convinced and sold my dad on the idea. So that part was not the way already. So it was, a fairly simple process, from that end. It was mostly just us analyzing and looking at it and say, okay, is this something that we want to do? Is it something not that we want to do? Look at where we think the company's going, how good do you think it's going to be, in a few years from now, and how beneficial. Because obviously we could have done it ourselves. Now we know how easy it is and stuff like that. But before that, it was really based on, okay, is this is paying them this money up front and money monthly going to be worth it? And so it was just essentially that whole process, that we had to go through about 2 months before signing.
Okay. Okay. So tell me, so Contender Esports, what are your hours of operation?
Hours of operation on Sundays we're open from noon until 10 p.m. Monday through Thursday, 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Friday, 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. And then Saturday, 11 a.m. to 2 a.m.
Okay. And folks, for any of you that didn't get that information, I'm definitely going to be including that in the show notes because, again, if you're interested in learning more about esports or just learning how to play some of these games in an environment that is definitely instructive and about character building, I would highly recommend, if you're in the North Carolina area within driving distance, going down to Cary. And, well, let me see. For me, it would be going up to Cary. And checking out Contender Esports to see what it's all about. This has been one of those conversations where I love when I learn something. And Michelle is saying that she loves it and that she will definitely pay a visit. Hey, Michelle, maybe we'll go together. Who knows? And to check it out, because again, my idea of video games is from back in the day when my kids were younger. And I know I see other students now playing. And I love the other thing I was thinking about that I love that you said was when you talked about, parents don't want their kids just huddled around a video game all the time and not having any social interaction. And I like that you foster that you foster the social interaction. So again, so folks, this may be something that that may be something for your kids to do now that things are opening up and it's safer to be out and about and around. So check it out. You have his information there. I will definitely make sure that you have the address, the business hours, and what have you. But it's Contender Esports. That's Caleb's website. If you wanted to reach out to him, he's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and you see his handle there. So, folks, make sure you take advantage of this because again, you just learned about something. As we said, there are now college scholarships that are available. And some of the scholarships that I was looking at, I mean, they had a hefty amount behind them. I mean, there were some, they were like, $1,000, $5,000, $2,000. But again, you don't sniff at 1,000 or 2,000 because every little bit really helps when you go into college. But I saw some scholarships, for $10,000 or more. And I was like, okay, I need to look into this professionally a little bit more. So when I have students that come to me that want to talk about gaming or getting an esports scholarship, I'll be a little bit more knowledgeable and I'll be able to talk to them from a point of not necessarily being an expert, but having done my research. Caleb will be my expert. I'll be reaching out to Caleb saying, Caleb, what about this? Is this something that's viable for students? Caleb, I'm really so happy that Candy introduced us. So Candy Sugarman, if you get to see this at all, and I'll make sure you see it, I'll tag you in it when I put it out on LinkedIn and stuff. I thank you, Candy, for introducing me to Caleb. This is one of those networking opportunities that just gave me so much information and gave a whole new audience information about what Caleb does and about Contender Esports. So this is something that I hope families will take advantage of, and learn more about. Before we go, and Caleb, just hang on. I just want to invite everyone to the Shiro Summit. So, most of you who have been following me know that I was part of an anthology during COVID, where I was one of 14 co-authors of an anthology called Becoming a Shiro. And we're having a summit next Sunday where we will be talking about the women in our lives that are our Shiros and a little bit about our stories. So again, here's the book, Becoming a Shiro, 14 co-authors. That's us on the back. And actually there's you can look at one of my past broadcasts where that you can see us. So we'd love for people to be there so they can have that conversation with us. And if you're interested in ordering a book, this is the order link on Amazon. If you want your own autographed copy, just send me a message and I can do that here because I do have copies of the book. But if you order it straight from Amazon, it won't be autographed unless I happen to catch up with you some other time. So folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, thank you for listening to and learning from Caleb Smith, who is the co-owner of Contender Esports in Cary, North Carolina. Make sure you share this with other people on the replay when you're watching it. If you have additional questions or comments, please let us know because I'm always checking to see if people have comments about what it is that we're doing. I will see you folks next Monday with another college and career conversations with Dr. B. And again, Caleb, thank you so much for being here. Oh, but you know what? There's one thing I do want to ask you. What do you do for fun when you're not doing esports? What do you do?
When I'm not doing esports, what I do for fun? Well, boxing was something I did a lot. It was mostly before I opened the business, then did a little bit after that, don't really have, as much. What I've really been doing recently, I have a lot of, places. I try to go to one a month and list it on my bucket list. And then, some things is like, someone offered to teach me archery, which, I'd went and done because that was something I was really want to do. Another which I wanted to go to Triangle Rock Club for a while, and then I'm in Leadership Cary, and that was one of our events for the day. So it was like, oh, sweet, awesome. So we went there, Drive Shack, went there with the staff, which I already went there earlier this year with Leadership Cary as well. But then, now it's stuff like, okay, axe throwing and just finding those, one-off type things, that I do, maybe once or twice a year, because one thing I don't like is to be living life with regrets. And so I was like, well, everything I want to do, I want to make sure I get that out, even if I can only space it out, one thing a month. Well, by the end of the year, I should hit most of the things. So you'll find me. I mean, if you invite me to do something, let's just like go into a club or a bar. I mean, pretty much I'll say yes.
Okay. I love that. I love that doing, finding something to do every month, because I find that sometimes is something that I have to work on a little bit. But I recently picked up this plaque at one of my favorite stores, and I love what it says here. Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, even you. So that's what I'm working on. I'm working on unplugging. This is courtesy of Turner's Lane in downtown Fayetteville. They have the cutest little signs. So I'm always in there seeing what new signs that I can buy. And this one spoke to me. Again, Caleb, thank you so much, because this was informative. This was interesting. This was something that's going to make me learn a little bit more. Oh, so here's a question. I don't know if you want to answer it or not, Caleb. But one of our viewers wants to know how old you are.
I am 23.
Wow. Okay. See, 23, an entrepreneur out there doing it. So folks, you're never too young to get out there and do what you need to do. Debbie, thank you for asking that question. Again, this is how you can reach out to Caleb if you're interested in learning more about Contender Esports, or if you want to actually take a trip down to Cary and visit it. Yes. Michelle said it's awesome. Yes. Isn't it nice, Michelle, to see young folks out here taking care of business and being able to pass this information on to other young folks and older folks. So again, Caleb, I can't thank you enough. This has been one of my favorite interviews because I love, like I said, when I learn, and I've just learned so much from you. So everyone, I'll see you next Monday at 7 p.m. with another College and Career Conversations. And Caleb, take care. And just hold on while I end this. We'll see you later, folks.